There is a moment you already know too well. You send a message, and then you wait, not for seconds, not for minutes, but for something heavier, meaning. The typing indicator appears, then disappears, then nothing. And in that silence, your mind starts building stories. Not facts, stories. Maybe they're busy, maybe they forgot, maybe they'll reply later, maybe you're overthinking. But deep down, you already feel it. That subtle drop in importance, that invisible shift, that quiet replacement. And here's what nobody tells you. It was never random, not even once. We live in the most connected era in human history, and yet, we experience more silence than ever. Not physical silence, social silence, the kind that happens when your message is seen, but not valued enough to answer. You were taught something false. That attention is evenly distributed. That people respond when they can. That silence is neutral. It is not. Silence is a decision, even when it is unconscious, because the human mind does not operate randomly. It operates through filtering systems, constant prioritization, instant ranking. And you are being ranked. Every interaction, every message, every moment, not consciously, but instantly. A massive invisible queue. People standing in line. But instead of numbers, there are emotional values attached to each person. Not written, but felt. Every person you know exists in someone else's mental priority system. High urgency, medium importance, low friction, avoidable, optional. And where you fall in that system determines everything. Because your brain doesn't interpret it as logic. It interprets it as identity. No, they didn't reply. I was not worth replying to. And that shift is where emotional damage begins. Seen at 2:11 a.m., no reply. Message left on read. Phone face down. You checking again. You pretending not to care. But here is the uncomfortable truth. The silence is not about your message. It is about your position in someone's mental economy. And that economy has rules. Even if no one ever explains them. People do not respond based on fairness. They respond based on emotional energy required, perceived importance, context relevance, social reward expectation. If replying to you feels easy, meaningful, rewarding, you get a response. If not, you get silence, not hate, not rejection, selection. A person replying instantly to someone they like, ignoring 5 other messages. Not malicious, just automatic prioritization. And this is where most people misunderstand reality. They assume effort equals response. But in psychology, effort does not guarantee attention. Perceived value does. You were not ignored randomly. You were filtered. And that filter is shaped by emotional impact, perceived status, past interactions, energy cost, not your worth as a human being, but your position in someone's mental system. Phone on a table. Notification appears. Lights up, then goes dark again, unread, unanswered. And in that moment, you begin to feel something. Not sadness, not anger, something deeper. Clarity, because once you realize this is not random, you can no longer unsee it. And the real question begins to form. If attention is not given equally, then what determines who receives it? The silence doesn't feel neutral anymore. Once you notice it, starts to feel structured, organized, intentional, even when it isn't. Because now you understand something uncomfortable. People are not equally available to everyone. Not emotionally, not mentally, not socially. And this is where the real mechanism begins. There is a rule no one explicitly teaches you, but everyone obeys it. Without thinking, without agreement, without discussion, people respond faster to what feels important to them, and slower or never to what doesn't. Not because they are cruel, but because their attention is already occupied, already allocated, already ranked. Every human being maintains a hidden structure in their mind, a constantly updating system of who matters right now, who can wait, who can be ignored, who creates emotional return, who creates emotional cost. And you are always inside someone else's system, even if you never agreed to be. And the brain is constantly doing one thing, allocating attention where the return is highest. This is not morality. This is cognitive efficiency. When someone sees your message, their brain doesn't ask, is this person good or bad? It asks, do I have energy for this? Does this require emotional effort? Is this urgent? Is this rewarding? What do I gain from replying now? And in milliseconds, a decision is made. Reply, delay, ignore. Not emotionally, mechanically. Someone opens their phone, sees your message, pauses, scrolls, reacts to something else. then puts the phone down. No hatred, no drama, just prioritization. And the hardest truth is this: you are not competing for love. You are competing for attention. And attention is always limited. It's not luck. It's not coincidence. It's not even effort. It is signal strength. Some people send signals like emotional reward, excitement, curiosity, social value, ease of interaction. Others send signals like emotional work, confusion, pressure, obligation, mental load. And the brain prefers less cost, more reward. But reality is more precise. If interacting with you feels easy, you get access. And most people never realize they are the door, not the key. There is something else happening underneath all of this. Something more subtle. People constantly detect desperation, over-availability, emotional dependency, lack of boundaries, not consciously, but instinctively. And when detected, priority decreases, not as punishment, but as a signal adjustment. Because neediness is not attractive to attention systems. It is expensive. This is the part most people never understand. You are not ignored because you are unworthy. You are ignored because, in that moment, you are not the most efficient use of attention. And efficiency wins, every time. And once you understand the system, you stop taking it personally. Because it was never personal to begin with. It was structural. Attention is not just allocated, it is competed for. Every message enters a silent battlefield. Against other messages, other people, other stimuli, other rewards. And you are not the only contender. You are one entry among many. The human brain does not process messages in isolation. It processes them in a queue of urgency signals, emotional reward signals, novelty signals, identity-relevant signals. And whichever signal is strongest, wins attention first. A stream of notifications falling like rain. Each one glowing differently. Some bright gold, some dull gray, some flashing red. Only a few get tapped. Most get ignored. Not because they are unimportant, but because something else was more stimulating in that moment. Why other people get replies faster? There is a hidden truth most people don't see. People reply faster to those who create emotional reward, excitement, identity reinforcement, curiosity spikes, positive anticipation. This is not conscious behavior. It is dopamine-driven selection. 2 messages arrive. Message A: hey, how was your day? Grinning face with smiling eyes. Message B: did you see this? Face with tears of joy. Which gets answered first? Almost always B. Not because A is less meaningful, but because B triggers instant emotional reward. Dopamine rule of attention. The brain prioritizes what feels good now over what matters logically. And this creates a system where fun equals fast response, neutral equals delayed response, heavy equals avoided response. And this is where your confusion begins. Because you assume, if they care about me, they will respond. But their brain is not running on care alone. It is running on stimulation hierarchy, identity signaling. There is another layer beneath dopamine. People respond faster to those who reinforce their identity. Meaning, people they feel good being seen by, people they feel socially aligned with, people who elevate their self-image, people who feel easy in interaction, and slower to those who create uncertainty, emotional demand, social complexity, internal pressure. A mirror metaphor. Some interactions make people feel, I like who I am when I talk to this person. Others, I need to manage myself carefully here. And humans always prefer environments where they feel effortless. This is the painful observation. They don't reply to you, but they are active elsewhere. Because attention is not absent, it is redirected toward easier interactions, higher reward interactions, lower emotional cost interactions. Someone ignores your message, then immediately replies in a group chat, reacts to memes, scrolls social media, chats with someone else. Not rejection, selection under competing stimulation. The hard truth: you were not competing against nothing. You were competing against dopamine triggers, social validation loops, effortless conversations, immediate emotional rewards. And those systems often win because attention does not go to what is deserved. It goes to what is most neurologically rewarding in that moment. Why this is not personal, but still feels personal. Your brain interprets delay as rejection, replacement, devaluation. But biologically it is prioritization shift, stimulus competition, cognitive reallocation. 2 different realities. One emotional, One mechanical spotlight in a dark room can only illuminate one object at a time. Everything else remains in shadow, not erased, just not lit. And when the spotlight moves away from you, your mind assumes you disappeared. People are not ignoring you in isolation. They are choosing between competing emotional inputs, and you are measured against reward, clarity, stimulation, not against your worth, but against everything else demanding attention. Phone screen, your message sits unopened. Nearby, other notifications are being tapped, replied to, reacted to. Narrator quiet, final line. And in that moment, you were not rejected. You were simply not the most rewarding option available. By now, the illusion is gone. Silence is no longer mysterious. It is not random. It is not personal. It is not even emotional in the way you first believed. It is a system, and systems can be understood. If attention is not given by accident, then it must be earned through structure, not pleading, not chasing, not over-explaining, but alignment, the final system. Attention selection. People do not give attention freely. They allocate it based on three invisible forces: reward, identity fit, and the real shift begins when you understand this. You cannot demand attention. You can only become someone it naturally moves toward. Candle in a dark room. Some flames flicker violently, some burn steady, some are almost invisible. Tension moves like light. It always travels toward the clearest signal. Why chasing fails? When you chase attention, you increase perceived neediness. You increase emotional cost. You increase instability signals. And the system responds by pulling away. Not emotionally, mechanically. Then silence deepens. Not because you did something wrong, but because the signal became heavier. Identity shift. Everything changes when you stop behaving like someone trying to be chosen and start behaving like someone who is already self-contained. Because attention responds to stability, not desperation. The paradox is simple. The more you try to be seen, the less visible you become. And the less you try, the more naturally attention moves toward you. What actually attracts attention? Not manipulation, not tricks, not psychological games, but signals of emotional independence, clarity of intent, low friction communication, absence of urgency distortion, stable self-reference. Person A, double texting, over-explaining, waiting anxiously. Person B, neutral, not chasing response. Who feels more important to interact with? Almost always B. Not because B is louder, but because B is lighter. Attention follows weight, not words. People don't move toward intensity. They move away from emotional weight and toward clarity, predictability, reward. Two paths, one covered in rocks and pressure, one smooth, open, simple. People always choose the smoother path. This is not psychology. This is human conservation of energy. Silence is not a statement about your value. It is a reflection of current emotional bandwidth, competing stimuli, perceived interaction cost, reward comparison. And once you stop personalizing it, you regain control of your perception. Because the real power was never in getting responses. It was in no longer depending on them to define you. You do not win attention by forcing it. You win it by becoming calm without withdrawal, present without pressure, engaged without dependence. And that shift is invisible, but decisive. Phone on a table. No anxiety, no waiting, no checking, just silence. But this time, does not feel like rejection, feels neutral, controlled, free. Because once you understand how attention really works, you stop asking why they didn't reply, and start understanding why you no longer need them to.